Beautiful humans, welcome back to another episode of the I Like Birds podcast. I'm your host, ZachRippey, and this podcast is dedicated to the non-believers, the confused believers, and the true believers. Because I, at one time or another, was all three, and I'm here to help you get a better understanding of who Jesus is and what he's all about. Let's grow in our faith together. You learn as I learn. I like the Bible, and I like words, so therefore, I like birds. Let's start the show.
People, are you ready? Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
My friends, thank you so much for tuning into I Like Birds podcast. I got great news and a special treat for y'all. I just got back from Michigan, and I spent 5 days out there with one of my best buds in the world, Mr. Jeff Deweerd, former military, airborne, jumping out of helicopters and planes, combat veteran, special forces, doesn't play games. But with that being said, I will say this episode is a little bit more gritty. He uses the S word a few times, so just be aware if you're listening with kids in the car, family in the car, that you're going to hear that word a few times. So please, I hope that doesn't tune you away, or just come back another time. We're all adults here for the most part. I don't think I have any kids listening except for maybe my niece Ava, who's in high school, but she's heard it. But anyway, long story short, let's get right into the show. Hope you enjoy it. Share it if you enjoy it. As always, I appreciate you guys. I'll have a solo episode coming out for you about Michigan shortly, I presume. I'm dropping this on a Thursday, feeling good about it. I also did a podcast on his podcast called Deweerd. If you want to go check it out, it's called Deweerd Podcast, everywhere you can find it. If you like to hear what Jeff has to say about life and philosophy and just the meaning behind things and God and just everything civilization, check him out. He's super talented, and he's writing a book, and he's actually getting his master's right now. And he's eventually going to get his PhD. So he's working hard, and I hope you guys enjoy the conversation and learn something from it and just, have some fun. All right, y'all. Thanks. We're actually out here. This is, I think, the first episode that I have recorded with a guest that is in person. I've been doing them all on Zoom, but I came out here to Michigan to see my buddy, and we're going to do a podcast for the people that love listening about God and just hearing other people's perspectives and whatnot. And I will say that Jeff has the most interesting perspective on God. I feel like out of all my friends, I feel like it's very bigger than just one faith-based. I feel like it's detailed. He's getting his master's in philosophy right now, and
humanities.
Humanities.
Same.
Oh yeah, same thing. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, but tell Jeff. I know you did 10 years military, airborne, 82nd Airborne.
Yeah, boy.
110th Special Forces. Did I say that right?
No.
10
Special Forces.
10 Special Forces. Yeah. All right. So Amanda was a paratrooper in the military, and I'd love to ask you this question about when you told me the story about you going out to Afghanistan, and when your boots hit the ground, you felt like the presence of God was with you when you went out there. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more in detail?
I just felt chills run down my spine thinking about it.
Yeah.
Man. It's weird because, war seems like such a godless thing, mm-hmm. right? I mean, it really does. It's ugly, but there's a thing that most vets don't really like talking about, which is, the guys like me and a lot of guys that I served with that, like, we wanted to go to war. Mm. We trained for this for a long time, man. Really hard days away from our families, for weeks at a time, months at a time, sometimes doing really hard shit, getting hurt, getting banged up. So by the time it's a culmination event, right? So you're like, okay, this is it. This is the marathon. I've been running. I'm doing everything I can. I'm dieting well, and I'm at the marathon, Yeah. So flying out there is very strange. We flew from Alaska into Leipzig, Germany, but you don't go into like the regular airport because we all have guns on us, right? Mm-hmm. So like you can't go in the normal airport, and I think the guns even stayed on the bird, but whatever. Dude, it's so silly. But we flew into Leipzig, Germany, into like this military holding point. So you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. You're just lonely. The internet's garbage. Everything's in German.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange. But we flew from there, and then we went to Bagram, Afghanistan. And that's like the big main hub in Afghanistan where you branch out from there. And Bagram was where it really hit me. that was where I was like, oh shit, I'm physically in Afghanistan. Like in the bird while you're going there, whenever you go, like there'll be green lights in the bird when you're in a safe zone. So you board the plane in Germany, lights in the bird are green. The second you cross over into enemy territory, if you will, the second we break into those lines, all the lights inside the bird go red. So you know that it's hot now. This is something for real. So that was an experience in itself, right? It's like, okay, hey, you know what I mean? The training wheels are off. It's time to go.
Real.
So,
Yeah,
it's getting real. So yeah, like, you know, the second you get out of that plane and boots hit the ground, I had been so fearful up to that point, right? Like trying to hide it, you know, the best I could, right? Like, no, I'm ready for the whatever, you know, I was young and dumb, right? And just trying to hold it together. But the second, like, I really touched the ground, I don't know. I knew I was going to die out there. That's a strange thing to say, but it's kind of the truth. I knew I wasn't coming home, like knew it. I had conviction that like, I'm probably not going to make it out of this thing alive, right? I mean, it was bad for a long time. It was bad. Then we'd have like little bitty lulls where like, hey, it's kind of peaceful, everything's good, and then something some catastrophe would happen, and you'd be reminded that, oh yeah, you're in Afghanistan, you're in a combat zone, stupid, you know. And yeah, but the weirdest thing for me is how I was able to keep my shit together the whole time while I was out there. Like I was like a beacon of light for so many guys out there that just, you know, and I don't even know how. I really don't know how. I mean, you want to talk about the presence of God in your life, right? It's like, find me another explanation, all right? Because that's the way I see it. But I mean, I was able to talk to guys and help guys through. I mean, you have no idea what these guys go through, dude. It's brutal. You know how many guys come home to a broken home? You know, their significant others been cheating on them, and you know, one guy came home to like a pile of rubble left in the middle of his living room. His wife, kids, they dipped and just bounced on him. So that's what he came home to from war. So it's like, so for me, I think I always had that blessing of like, with the backbone of my wife, man, she's tremendous. She got it the whole time. She understood. Like she, you know, it's funny. We've talked about it since that, you know, I never knew she knew that I was bullshitting her on the phone. Right. Because, you know, every chance we got to talk, we talked, and it was all hunky dory. Everything was, no, it's good. It's good. Easy days, man. Everything's fine. We got rocketed one time when I was on the phone with her, and I was like, yo, I think I got to go. You know, I think I got to go. I love you. Talk to you. Yeah. Hopefully later, you know. It's like,
we talk about this a lot on this show, just because so many people in my life have been an example of this. Is like when God blesses you with something, use that blessing to bless others. So it seems really like that's kind of what you were doing with being that light for other people, because you knew you had it. You had the blessing, so you were like ready to give that light to other people.
My cup runneth over.
Yeah.
You know, and seriously, I think when you got a full cup, it's easy to be able to give people something of yourself, right? And talk to these guys that are going through some shit, you know. And I had this great backbone at home that, like, I don't know if guilt is the right word, but you almost feel guilty for how good you have it, right? It's like, whoa, I was making a shit pile of money out there. You get all these extra pays, right? So like, you like when the bank is getting breaded up, you're like, oh, great, another $7,000 check. Run that shit, you know? And it's like, it was cool, right? You know, so it's like the bank account's getting breaded. Beth is good. You know, we already had Jordan. Jordan was like 1 at the time, you know, so it's like got a baby boy. You know, I was just really hoping to get through that shit with 10 fingers, 10 toes, you know, and come back good. And luckily everything worked out, man. It was like, honestly, again, another thing most vets don't talk about. This shit was fun. It's fun. It's crazy. It's war games. It's weird. It's interesting as shit. It really is. And, you know, I had, I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Try to keep it light on this one.
Yeah.
Don't get too deep on the war and the cursing
I
as much.
have a flashback of these boys. Here it comes.
Yeah, so let's transition to this now. When you get out of the military, you come home to Texas, and it feels weird. You feel like you're not in the right spot. You start doing stand-up, which is how you and I met. And then once COVID kind of happened, you kind of shifted completely into more of, I would say, more of just like at one, like, I feel like when you do stand up and you're in the world, you kind of live horizontally. But like once COVID happened, I feel like you and I both kind of went vertically. Like we went straight to God and we're kind of like, what should we do with our life? And you kind of dove deeper into the philosophy realm of life. And what do you think that was a God thing, putting that on your heart to go that route?
Most definitely. So it basically came out of like stand up was like taken away from us. Right. I mean, we could go on and on about politics and silly stuff, but that's not my realm. Right. I don't really like that stuff. What I more so like is just dealing with life, dealing with the issue, right? So cool, stand-up's taken away, bummer. What now? And I mean, if you look for God's guidance, you're going to find it. If you're seeking it, you will find it. I mean, you know how strange it is, how many times I buy a book that we were talking about, that Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And you were like, why'd you buy this book? And I'm like, shit, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think somebody recommended it a very long time ago. I don't even know who, and I don't know when, but I got the thing and it's here, and I'll read it in due time. And I think, if you kind of just seek that guidance and, because I don't know how many other people really like believe in God deeply, right? And follow the guidance. It's like remember we were talking about the Rolex watch thing the other day. If I've always wanted a rose gold presidential Rolex. All right, it's like 20 racks, clean. 20 racks starting out plus tax. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, I've always wanted one. It's silly. Judge me for it. It's cool. It doesn't matter. I just think the shit looks cool against the tats. You know what I mean? I got the sleeve popping off with the rose gold Prezi. Come on, man. You know that'd be straight,
with
right?
the stogie.
Exactly. And me and Zach were talking about how like if I had that watch and somebody was like in need of 20 G's. And, and God told me, hey, give him the stupid watch. You don't need it. Give him the dumbass watch. Do you do it or not? And I'd like to believe any day of the week that, yeah, I'd do it. But dang, then what if they squander it? Now what? Because if you can't reconcile that with God to where you go, hey, I'm going to give them this watch because I think that's what you're telling me to do. I feel it. Right. So here's the watch. And now they're in God's hands. It's not on you. You
says
did
that in the Bible
deed.
too.
Right. It does it really?
Yeah. It talks about that in one of the parables. It refers to basically a bunch of the workers out there. This guy had like a land and he was hiring people to work on his land, and he went out and he got people at like 6 a.m. He's like, I'll pay you $100, 6 a.m. All day. He's like, they're like, all right, bet. Yeah. And then he kept going out. 9 a.m., got more people, same price. He went out at like 2 p.m., got more people, same price. Went out at like 4 p.m., same price. So he was giving everybody the same price. So basically the parable is like insinuating like, don't worry about what other people's blessings are. Just give it to God. If like God puts that in your spirit to give, like leave, that's it. That's up to God to do what he does with it. And hopefully that person does what he's called to do with it, but sure. All the other people that were hired on earlier got all salty and was like, oh, like they got the same as me kind of thing, so it talks about that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And do you think that the Spirit of God kind of puts that on your heart, like for the Rolex, for instance, like, do you think the Spirit of that is God talking, is like when you feel that spirit or that conscience or that right thing to do?
Yeah.
That is God?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I really do. It depends on how clear your signal is between you and God, right? And I think you clear that up by getting rid of dumbass guilt and things that people have been putting on you for years, right? You're ugly, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. All these things that we like just bury deep down and and try to do.
Get a 9 to 5.
Right. Like trying to just
get benefits.
Justify these ugly things that people have put on you. And it's so silly. You've got to get over it. You've got to learn that life is intrinsic. It's you and it's God. And if you and God walk on this journey, I think life is a lot cooler, man. It becomes neat because you get to go, Hey, I'm out in these deer woods hunting it up, right? Freezing my ass off. My feet are bricks, and I haven't seen a deer in hours. And then it's dark, and I got to get out of the stand. I saw nothing, right? So what's the message? Well, maybe the message is just God needed me to sit for a little while. Like, hey, you're doing too much. Sit, relax. So, you know what I mean? Take a load off. Look at nature. Look at what I've created. Look at this beauty, right? It's like, and this is your land. Right. I still can't believe I own, 20 plus acres. That doesn't make sense.
Say the exact number for the people.
27. You know what I mean? It's 26.91 to be honest. Can I round up for you listeners?
You can round up for the
Thanks, guys.
for the birdhouse.
Yeah, for the birds. Hook it up. But I still can't believe that, at first I really questioned, do I deserve this? Like on some real shit. Do I deserve this? And then again, going back to those generational curses, that nasty shit that people put on you. It's like
you broke the chains.
That's why I thought I didn't deserve it for a moment, because I have always been taught that I'm undeserving of love, of care, of a lot of things. For the listeners who don't know me, my childhood, it was tough. Right, it was to say the least. Right, and I've had to work hard to rebound from that and understand what life is, and that's why I love philosophy, because philosophy teaches you that. Again, it's your journey with God. So go through it, be a light for people, be a beacon of light, help everybody you can, but don't get ran over. I mean, there's variables and fluctuations and different things, and you got to work through it with your own experience, right? Like in philosophy, it's, your experience is empirical. Right. So empirical knowledge, empirical data is what you've gained through the senses, of learning, smelling, it tastes, you know what I mean? It just your life experience deeply is your empirical knowledge. So you couple that with your knowledge of logic, right? So, empirical data would be if I kick you in the foot, it's going to hurt. Right. That's because because somebody's kicked you in the foot before. Right.
That's experience. Yeah.
But logic is, if you kicked me in the foot, it would hurt because I've never been kicked in the foot before, but I could imagine it would I've been kicked in the shin before, and I could reconcile the difference between the two. Right. Seems like it would probably not be fun.
Yeah.
So you got to balance that. You got to balance logic and reason versus what you've learned. And a lot of that empirical data to me is of God. It's from God. It's the direct, do this and this is the punishment or reward. It's quick.
Yeah.
You can, so I don't know, just going back on how it's like an internal battle in life. I think that's valuable for people to understand that it's you, not against the world, but with the world. So, get after it. Be the best you can be. Stop bitching about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Because nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody even cares. I got, 27 acres out here. Nobody cares.
Right.
It's a me thing.
It's a you thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I could say it to somebody and they're either going to bounce it against jealousy and be like, oh, man.
Or that's dope and move on.
That's dope and next thing,
conversation.
Is that all you have to talk about?
Yeah.
It's like
no, for sure. And I feel like with you, from me knowing you for the last 3 years, it seems like a lot of people, because I'm meeting more people in the faith world. As I do this podcast and I pursue ministry, it's interesting because you meet people with all different backgrounds of faith. You meet people that, have turned from God, have been atheists, but then turned to God. You meet people that grew up in it, but went away and then came back. And it seems like a lot of what people struggle with is the rule. They think it's more like rules, and they think it's more it's and whatnot. It's rules, and basically instead of relationship. And I feel like you've really put that into my heart, as far as I can tell that you have a good relationship with God, where it's kind of you honor him by what you do and what you put your time towards as well.
I think I try really hard, and I don't think most people try hard, because I've found times in my life where I wasn't trying hard to have a connection with God, and my life was in shambles, and I'm wondering why. And then all of a sudden it always comes back around to, you can't do it without me. You know, like, come on,
right?
Keep playing yourself, but that's what you're doing. Don't disguise it as something else. You're playing yourself. So have fun as long as you want. But
and even your decisions that weren't really, let's say, godly. You know, your decisions. You know, you told me, and I'm sure it's public knowledge. So here we go. You told me that you dealt marijuana from like 14 to 22, and then you joined the military. You told me you've experimented with all kinds of drugs in your youth. Told me you've ran from the cops.
Allegedly.
Allegedly ran from the cops.
Allegedly.
in cars and parked in your buddy's garage. And you've just been all over the map. You've definitely lived a full life of sin. But you came back, and God is good and showed you the gracious of, like, you just being that light for people and just being a genuine dude and just always giving glory to God as far as, like, your reason for existing. I feel like he's rewarded you with blessings and whatnot. And I feel like you have a big future in for the kingdom as far as, like, turning people to God through your writing and through your work and through your teaching.
Yeah, that's exactly what I hope, you know. So, you know, I think going through hard times is humbling. It really is, right? And especially if you can humble yourself during that time. I mean, that is so valuable. If you can go through something tough and on the other side of it go, yeah, but, you know, you could talk about it to other people. Trust me, brother, I've been through tough times, all right? Don't try to play me out like I've had some cushy-ass life, because that ain't the case.
Nah, dog.
Yeah. Boy.
Sit down.
Yeah, sit down. Right? Like, let's chop it up for a second. I'm gonna make sure that we're on the same page for a second, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just, you know, I hope the writing, you know, the podcast, everything I do, I'm just trying to do the best thing I can, right? But here's a good topic to talk about. Something I'll ask you, because this is interesting. Damn, I lost my train of thought.
Oh, that's the worst.
It'll come back.
It always does come back.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, let me get a sip of water. Hope the listeners are enjoying this podcast so far. It's definitely interesting to hear your story in the lens of, like, through talking about God in that way, you know?
Well, thank you.
All right, to come back to you yet?
Oh, yes.
There we go.
All right. So I find it a little difficult to reconcile like my ability to talk about God, because, you know, for one, I'll be frank, I've never read the Bible through and through. You know, I've read verses. I think when you put me on John, I swear, as far as I can remember, I think that's the only time I've ever legit read a chapter of the Bible through and through. Yeah. You know, so it's like, but I don't take it as an embarrassment. I see, and again, this is me reconciling my bullshit, right? Like being humbled in what I haven't done or my failures, you know. And it's like, it's okay. I'll be honest about it. And truly, it's kind of more interesting hearing your perspective and other people's perspective about, you know, the Bible and stuff. And it's like, whoa, man, all right, that's interesting, because, you know, for a while I looked at the Bible as like a philosophical text. Right. And like, you know, my father-in-law doesn't like that shit. You know what I mean? He doesn't play that crap. He's like, what? No. You know, like, don't do that to the Bible. Yeah,
it's the word.
Yes, that's the word, right? Yeah. Like, come on, man. But I find it hard to you know, put a ton of God stuff like in the book I'm writing. I definitely, it's in there. It's in there. It's painted all over it, right? But sometimes in more subtle ways than the punch in the face. Right? Because I'm not God. I can't, you know, I just do my best to write what I think people need to hear. You know, it's like those simple things that really can just like flip a switch. Because I've done that so many times in my life where I give somebody a little piece of advice and they're like, holy shit, I never thought about it that way. And you could see the change. Yeah. You could see the obvious change. And it's like, shit, you know, those times when, like, I don't know how much this happens to other people, but I mean, I'll talk to people and give them like the dopest advice, and like, I have no clue where this shit's coming from. You know what I mean? Like, afterwards I'm sitting there like, why did I say, I mean, that was dope that I said that, but I don't even know why I did, you know? And I guess it's just, again, me bouncing everything I've learned in life against logic and reason and the potential for future, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. But when you read John, you loved it.
I loved it very much.
Yeah.
Very much. And I don't know, like, again, like we were talking about books coming at the right time, right? It just hasn't been the right time yet.
Yeah.
I need more knowledge. When I get there, I'll know when, because again, me and the big guy got a clear signal. You know, I can channel in, and one day the Bible will just be sitting on a table or something. It'll be so blatantly obvious, and I'll go, all right,
it's time.
Let's do this.
No, because it's phenomenal. You know, like John you were like, that's the best book in the Bible, right? And I was like, I mean, it is to me. And then I'm like, but they're all like in their own way so fascinating and so deep and so Jesus is so big on asking questions, you know, for you to think about it. Then he answers it in like a parable or a story that you just like, you understand the story, because like he's using it in terms where it's like you can understand it back then and you can even understand it now in 2020, you know? Right. So he definitely is the king of philosophy. So I definitely think if you read Luke and Matthew and Mark, you would really enjoy that too, because that's 3 different perspectives on the gospel of when he was doing his ministry. And then Paul, he wrote 13 epistles, which is kind of like letters in the Bible. And he really dives into the doctrine of what Christianity is. And he's a powerful writer. He wrote Corinthians, which you always hear at weddings and stuff like that. And Romans, you know, so I think you'd like all of it. You just got to make time for it and just got to read it, you know, when that time comes.
And I mean, you know, while I'm in school right now, obviously I have, you know, assigned readings, and I'm also reading other books in the meantime, because, you know, I love reading for pleasure. I chose this book. I'm in Humanities 500 right now. So it's my first master's class, and it's a research course, right? So they teach you how to research. It's like master's students should already know how to research, but whatever. The book they assigned us people is called How to Read a Book. That's shit you not. Master's students, how to read a book. And it's been fun tearing this book apart because it's very silly. But and I think so many of their, like, the ways they explain how to read philosophical text, and like it's the worst. It's so brutal. Like they're looking at it from a lens of somebody who just, I guess, wants to physically read it and slightly comprehend it. And philosophy is deep understanding. Yeah. So how are you skimming the surface when this entire field is supposed to be about depth? It makes no sense, right? So how to read a book, it hurts to read it, right?
It's hard to read that and then go read the Bible.
Exactly. Well, and this is what I'm getting at. So in this class, we had to choose one of the great books and you could look this up. It's actually pretty interesting. If you're ever interested in philosophy or anything, you can look up like the great books. The great books, there's like a list of them, and they're all like pretty well gone over texts, right? So you can, you know, trust some of their validity or some of the, you know what I mean, some of their worth. But I chose this Friedrich Nietzsche book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And Zarathustra, it sounded cool to me, right? Because the story goes kind of like this. Zarathustra is a guy who goes into the mountains for 10 years, then comes down from the mountains and starts talking to people about life and all kinds of stuff, right? And how to be the best self you can and all kinds of shit. But it's written in a very obscure way to where Nietzsche doesn't answer things. He just, you know, kind of like poses questions and makes statements and then just jumps to another topic without ever explaining anything. It's very strange. And, you know, this book's taught me a lot because honestly, I hate the book. Hate is a very strong word. Because I don't hate it. Some of it's valid, but it is mind numbing. You know, like for minutes afterwards, I'll pick up like another book that I love and just read a chapter afterwards because like, just to remind me that like, oh, there are good writers out there, right. You know, like they exist. But like, I came to find out all these crazy things about Nietzsche. Like there was a mistranslation because they talked about the city that Zarathustra held deeply in his heart. He loved this city very much, and it was called the Pied Cow. And pied in English means rejected or ignored. And I was thinking about it, just kind of bouncing it back with a little bit of German and Germanic languages that I understand. And I was like, there's no way that that's what it actually meant. So I did some research, came to find out that it's really buhe, B-U-H-E. And that means colorful, the colorful cow. So I'm like, oh man. So whoever translated this, like, fluffed it up for English readers, and that's kind of bullshit, right? That's kind of bogus. Say the damn colorful cow. That's what the town was called. Why are you trying to make it weird? And my buddy's wife is German, through and through, her whole born and raised, and I bounced it off of her. Hey, does this mean anything else in old text? Maybe your grandparents, did they ever use this term in such a way? Nope. So that was strange. And then I came to find out that Nietzsche's sister, so like Nietzsche kind of went crazy in like 1889. He kind of like lost his marbles, so to speak. And his sister in 1895 sold all of his works with money from the Nazis. Hitler was at her funeral. Wow. Right? So here's the ugly part. She apparently changed a decent bit of the text to fit that kind of, like whatever, fascism and all the crazy shit, right? Yeah. She like, so there's like the biggest glaring hole to me while I'm reading it is like, oh, I'm wasting my time reading this text, because if somebody else came in and altered it in such a hateful form, come on, I don't have any time for this shit. And like, me and my father-in-law were talking about it, and he's like, I was like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And he's like, it's because you're wasting your time. Like, read the Bible, stupid. It's like, damn it, why didn't you use this dumbass book? But it's cool because I've learned some stuff, and I don't know how valid or valuable that stuff's going to be in my future. But, I want to teach philosophy one day. So at least I could be like, skim over some Nietzsche, like, and I got a couple more Nietzsche books just to see if like, they're not long books. You can crush them in a day or two, so, I don't know, more to follow.
Yeah. Do you think that, from your experience of studying philosophers, do a lot of the philosophers believe in God? Like, is that documented?
I think so. I just think there's two things that have gotten in the way for a long time. Number one, mistranslation, right? So whenever you're reading a book from a German philosopher, they didn't write it in English. They wrote it in German, and they didn't translate it. Somebody else did. So did that person miss things? Did they skew it? Did they purposely change the text for their own selfish benefit, right? So there's that. But then also, I think, yeah, most philosophers do believe in God, but they just find it very difficult to explain their understanding of God, because a lot of things with a direct, like when you're not bullshitting about it, when you're being honest about your relationship with God, it is tough to explain to other people.
Correct.
Right. So like me in my life, like, even my father-in-law, I was telling him, I've always had God in my life. Always. Even going through all the worst shit I've ever been through, I always had God in my life, because I always prayed. I always, deeply was looking for meaning and answers. I'm not trying to find that selfish answer that first pops up in my head or something like that. I'm looking for a deeper meaning. And, and like to say at the least, he kind of didn't believe me, and he was like, nah, bullshit. You can't be godly and doing all the shit you were doing. But I disagree, because I believe that this was God's way of showing me how to be strong, right? Like, I was a broken soul for a long time, too long. I even got chills just thinking about that shit. And, and look at me now. I mean, I'm on the other side of it, right? It's dope. And you could judge me, judge away. I don't give a shit. I really don't. Judge me, make yourself sound better and watch how good that works out for you. Or maybe hear my story and use it to your benefit and understand that no matter what you've been through, you could get out of that shit. Yeah. And you can have a day where you got 27 acres too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sitting in the woods looking for God's message. I mean, it's up to you.
It's phenomenal to hear that. And it's so interesting about like the judgment part, because like it talks so much about in the Bible about judging, you know, and it's just, I think it's our human instinct to do that. But I do feel like the more I've known God over these last 7-8 months, the more I feel so like focused on God that it's hard for me to even judge other people. I still do it. Don't get me wrong. I still do it. I still judge people more than I should. But also I think there's like, the more you know God, the more like you have that voice in your head. Like the last episode I did, I was talking about how caring about what other people think. Like I used to say that I don't, you know, and, you know, try to like speak it into existence, but I still did, you know, I was just still trying, like still going through it. But now I've prayed to God and I asked him to like remove that from me just so I can just do what he wants me to do, you know? And what he's been doing is it's not completely removed, but he shows me like in my head, like I can identify when I'm doing that now. So if like I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about what somebody else is thinking about me or about some situation or something I post on the Instagram or something like that, I identify that now and I go, ugh, that's gross.
It is
that's
gross,
ungodly,
right?
You know?
Because like, I mean, and everybody does it, but also like, because I'm just, you know, hearing what you're saying and kind of bouncing it off, you know, how I operate. And I really don't judge people because I always do my best to walk a mile in their shoes. Just for 10 seconds in my head, think about it. If I were in their position, how much better would I be? Really? You know what I mean? Because I'm so perfect and shit, right? Like, and that judgment, you know, it's ugly because you're running it through a filter that is not of God, right?
Correct.
You're running it through the human filter.
Yeah.
Right? What are they going to think if I post it? And that's what I was talking about with the book, right? And that's why, you know, I really think, you know, my second run through of the book, like once I'm starting to put it together, it's starting to flow a little, make a little more sense to me. Because in the beginning I was just writing like a pig, you know, just not looking back, get it on, you know, paper, get it down, do the best I can. And, you know, it's challenging to, you know, to just put yourself out there and go, you know, this is what it is. And I really don't care what people think about the book because I know deeply in my heart that somebody's going to find it so valuable.
Right.
Right. And like, you know, you can say that shit all day. Oh, if it helps one person, then it's worth it. And for most people that's bullshit. But to me, that shit is real.
No, for sure.
Right. Because, you know, my son, he could pick up my book one day, read it, and understand a lot more about my life. And it's not that I don't tell him these things. It's just that I've really, really made them clear in the book what my intent was, what I believed the original outcome was going to be, what it ended up being, how I learned from it, all these things, right? So, you know, because I'm a comic, so it's got fun stories in it. You're going to chuckle at times reading the book, you know? I mean, like, I look back like a little bit and I go like, hey, that was some good writing, man. Somebody, that's going to get somebody, I guarantee it. That's going to trip somebody up. So I think it's more about being yourself, being authentic, and not worrying about what other people think. Because at the end of the day, they're just, you know, if they're judging you, they're doing so in an ungodly way.
In the first place.
Get after it.
Yeah.
Judge away.
Yeah.
I don't care. I really don't care because, you know, one day you may come back around to it, and I want you to have the ability to come back around to it. I'm not going to judge you like you're doing me, right? So as you judge my stuff and post up some ugly comments about something or something like this, and, you know, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'll forgive you for it. It's fine because one day, hopefully you'll come back around. And when you do, I'll welcome you with open arms, man. Come on. Buy the book.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, dude. And that's such a good point. And I feel that this year, 2020, has really also kind of pulled back the curtain on a lot as far as like what we see and what we realize is important. And also just feel like for us personally, we got to really experience that, wow, we could die. You know, like when it first popped off, you know, we all had that feeling of like, what is this? I never believed
it. I'm telling you, go back to like I had some podcasts in like March and stuff. And like, I'm not trying to say I'm some great genius and I saw all this coming.
No, we talked about it.
But I know what propaganda is.
Yeah.
And the second I saw it, I was like, guys, it's propaganda.
Yep.
Just letting you know.
No, for
this
sure.
is how mind control works. Careful what you're paying
Yeah.
attention to. You know.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot for the first, like, because I was going to your house every week when
Yeah.
COVID popped off, and
Yep.
we're getting deep on it, dude. For
sure.
months.
And it's because I know how ideas can be weaponized.
You've been in the rooms.
Sure.
Yeah.
You
Top,
know?
top secret clearance.
Something like that, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, dude, and it's just crazy because, like, I do feel like when you say that thing about one person might read the book, and that's kind of the thing that made me want to start this podcast, because I knew that I'd be judged for it. I knew that it'd be hard to get people to listen to, because that wasn't really my circle, you know, of life. Hasn't been all around people in the faith community. It's been, you know, a lot of comics and whatnot and degenerates. Pizza Hut drivers, Papa John's drivers, you know, like
Just cap it off.
yeah, right. And so I just knew then, but that was the thing in my head that kept ringing was like, man, 4 people might hear about Jesus in a way that they've never heard about it before, you know, because like I'm telling you, I read John and I said to myself, I said, how come nobody ever told me this? How come nobody ever
Sure.
told me this book was this fire? How come nobody ever told me like the way you would feel when you read it? How come nobody told me that the book speaks back, you know?
Right.
I always saw the Bible as just kind of like what they used at church, not to use it at home, you know?
Sure.
I had a really different perspective on it. And then once I actually sat down to read it for myself, I was like, oh, I'm going to finish this New Testament in 6 months. And then I did, and I was like, oh, I'm going to keep doing this podcast because I love it, and I just feel like it helps people, and I've seen the messages of it helping people, and it's been awesome. It's being a light in a dark time, you know, especially when you talk about the war situation. It definitely feels that way for me, and just bringing people and just being a seed, you know, just being a seed to somebody to come to God is like such a huge thing you can do. I think that's the best thing you can do in your life, you know. It's not being a professional athlete or a huge stand-up comedian that brings, I mean, the laughter is kind of cool, but I think bringing somebody to God is the tip-top magoo.
I agree, you know, because that's the real work, right? That's actually getting the real work done. I mean, you know, if you're some superstar on TV or something and some things worked out for you real well, and, you know, people trust your opinion for some reason that you didn't earn, you know what I mean? A lot of these like celebrities and stuff speak about things where you're like, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about, right? Yeah, come on, man, chill. You know, like you didn't get famous behind being a smart person. Yeah. Get out there and catch that ball and shut the hell up. You know, like, and I'm being rude, and I'm sorry for that. But also, you're right. You know, and I mean, again, walking a mile in those people's shoes. What if they're bringing people to God and you don't know about it, right? So. You know, you're judging them uncharacteristically. That's not fair, you know, and you wouldn't want people doing that to you, right? As you've said. So, it's your way, though. And I think your way of bringing people to God, or your way of showing people what a better life looks like, that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And you're doing the best damn thing you could do. You know, I mean, look at what we're doing right here. We could just be having this conversation, but instead we're recording it, put it out, let people listen to it, judge it, bounce it against your own, you know, understanding of God and understanding of the world and the self and everything, you know. So get after it. Ask questions. We'll do another one. We'll answer your questions, whatever it is, you know. I mean, I feel like that's the best I can do. Because I'm not a person who goes and talks about God to everyone. I just let it organically happen. You know, people ask me hard questions a lot of times. I'm weird, man. I ask people like deep questions.
Like last night.
Like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I ask people deep questions about weird shit because it's mad interesting to me. I love your journey. I love anybody out there. I love your journey. Because I want you to realize that it was all for a reason, right? Everything you've been through. Now, maybe you have the strength to teach somebody else who's been through the same thing that there is light on the other side. Keep trudging forward, one foot after the other. And before you know it, you're there.
Yeah, you figured it out.
You're there, and you stop and you look around and go, holy shit, look what I built. Look what I've done. You know, and I'm far from a millionaire. I ain't got no money. You know, like I'll give you what's in my bank account right now if you want to know. I don't give a shit, right? Because again, I don't care. I'm judgment free. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I just want people to be well, man. And it in these times in this world, man, I don't know. I think during this COVID thing, I've seen a lot of people's strength actually, because there's a lot of people who just like, Like this guy just a minute ago stopped on the property. There's a couple trees on the power line trail on the other side of my property that have to be cut down because they might fall into a power line, right? Fair enough. No big deal. But that guy, you know, he was even kind of joking about like COVID. Like, yeah, he was like, normally, you know, I would call you, but you just bought the property, so your information isn't really in the system yet. And you know, during these times or whatever, you know, and he's, you know, kind of making fun of it because of the fact that we all know it's bogus. You know?
We all know.
Nobody really wants to say
Dude,
it, right? Because you don't want to be that jerk.
Yeah,
but it's
no, I say it all the time.
bogus.
Dude, we had the health inspector come in to my restaurant that I was working at, and like he was washing his hands by the sink, and I was like polishing silverware, and I just leaned over to him, and I was like, "You think COVID's real?" Because he's the health inspector, and he goes, "Oh no, it's BS."
Yep.
And then he just walks away. Like he
Right.
kind of was like, "I just put the mask on and do what they tell me," and I was like, "All right."
Right. But the problem is that's a part of mind control, right?
Yeah.
If you're conforming, and I remember we had that good conversation about conformity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you were asking me, you know, oh, why, you know, if you can not wear a mask, why do you do it, right? And my whole thing is like, I love blending in. I just want to look like everybody else. Leave me alone.
But you're a soldier, and you even think so much differently than majority of people. Like you legit think about you were thinking about like you left your pole barn garage open, and you're over here thinking like somebody's gonna come steal your boat. And then you like we're talking about like putting the I Like Birds podcast up or the Weirdo podcast up on that sign that's kind of in front of your house.
Yeah.
And you were like, then somebody's gonna come steal my gear.
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
gonna
like you
know I
just think
got
of like
hot shit.
yeah, you just think the word like you just think your mind just goes to the place where a lot of minds won't go. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but also like
No, it's just a what could be.
Yeah, it's a
right?
what could be,
because
yeah.
then I could bounce that off of, okay, what could happen? Well, how could I stop that from happening? And then it's me protecting myself, my family. I wouldn't want somebody to hear something on my podcast, drive by, see the sign, and go, shit, is
where
that
he
the
lives?
guy? And then they're showing up to my front door with, you know, problems about something I said. This ain't the forum. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
showing up on my doorstep with issues ain't the way to get after it, you know?
yeah, and it's good you have that perspective because then it
yeah.
makes you not do what I suggested.
Well, I just don't want my family suffering for any, and it's not like I'm talking about wild shit or something like that, like anything damning.
You're just
that
telling the
would
truth,
hurt
and
anybody.
that's what gets you killed.
But people get scared when you talk truth, right? They want to tell you you're wrong. They want to tell you, they can't ever tell you why you're wrong. You know,
Yeah.
like it's always hilarious. Like, that's wrong what you're doing. Great.
Yeah.
Why? Wrong to who?
Like Candace Owens has this great quote where she says, "People hate me for the same reason because people love me and hate me for the same reason. It's because I tell the truth."
There you go.
And that's the same. That's the reason they hate her on both sides. Hate
Sure.
/ love her. You know.
Yeah.
That's why I love her.
It's odd to me that people would hate truth tellers though.
Yeah, it's weird.
But that's why I think like, the comedy philosophy background for me is the perfect one, because even when people judge me harshly for like something, I always have a comedy spin on it. You know what I mean? I can always like have some kind of like goof out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know.
Like an out kind of.
Yeah, sure. It is an out. It's like a mental out to get it out of my head, because I don't dwell on shit anymore. I don't, waste time with nonsensical thoughts of, again, what are people thinking about me? I mean, you got to understand that those people aren't you, and they're going to have a weird judgment of you because they're, thinking of how they would have done it, or what
you can't
they
even
would say.
you'll never be able to control it.
Never.
You can never control what they think.
Never.
Yeah. So it's like it's almost it's a waste of space in your mind to even think about what other people think.
What, total waste.
a
You
waste of
could be
space.
doing something really great.
Yeah, in your mind.
Yeah, you could be reading that book that's going to change your life. You could be
Listening to the pod that will
listening
change
to
your life. Listen to the I Like Birds podcast every week.
dropping these hot numbers on your face, piece.
Every week, make it part of your life. Get your exercise, your mental exercise.
Right, but I mean, you could
yeah.
be doing something to benefit yourself, but instead you're choosing to do the wrong thing. You're choosing to pay attention to shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah. And even let's talk about truth, man. I just feel it's so, I think people like, and that's one thing, man. I went through like a season of just being like really like into, and I still kind of am, but just being into like paying attention about politics and just wanted to like let my audience know that like, yo, I'm kind of paying attention to this and this is kind of like the truth I feel about it, you know? And I didn't want to like hide that from the people that listen, you know, that, oh, I feel this way like, you know, right now in this season, especially because the election was right around the corner. So I made a couple of episodes about like just speaking your truth, you know? I just think it's so important, and I think the Bible really just enhances that like in you to like do that, to kind of seek truth in all things that you do, and also like having just Christ in you, you know, sees like has you able to handle those truths like with a lot more grace than you would have before. If you like before I knew Christ, I feel like I didn't live as much truth as I wanted to, and I was kind of seeking it. I was always asking questions about how to like obtain meaning in life and whatnot, but I just feel that knowing God better helps you know truth better, because God is truth, you know.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, when you're talking about like politics and the media and stuff like that, like if you're saying that that's where you're obtaining your truth, that ain't good.
Right.
Because those things are written in such a way with colorful language, and they want to catch your attention. They have great headlines. They have this, they have
No,
that.
yeah, I'm the one that says I don't believe anything the media says,
Yeah,
for
good,
the most part. Yeah,
good.
that's my truth.
And
yeah.
hey, people, if you ever want to have a decent life, I encourage you to do the damn same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Care about the people within arm's reach.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Grab them, give them a hug. It'll be way more valuable than wasting your time on, you know, like paying attention to these stories that you have no idea of their validity. And then you're going to go spread that message, and now you're a spreader of lies.
You're part of it. You're part of the game.
You're part of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you want to break out of the system, quit paying attention to that shit. You're not going to die, I promise.
Yeah.
I haven't paid attention to the news in so long. I was talking to a good buddy of mine the other day. We were talking about my podcast, and, you know, like, since I moved, I kind of, like, you know, it was obviously, you know, challenging to just get right back into it, you know? And he was telling me, oh, maybe do like 30 minutes a day, and, you know, just like look up some news articles and then just speak on them. And I was like, I guess I could try that. You know, I haven't looked at anything in the news for a long time. So, you know, maybe I'll give it a shot. So I set up the gear, pulled up my laptop, went to like, I don't even Yahoo News or so, whatever. Again, like, I'm so out of the loop that I don't even know where to go for that kind of stuff, right? Like, I know how to look up scientific studies on Google Scholar and shit like that. Like, I could tell you about the validity of those studies.
Scholarly
like,
journals.
way better. Yeah, damn straight, because they're peer-reviewed, and you can look at, like, if it's like a scientific study, you can look at how the study was done. There's a great book by Ben Goldacre called Bad Science. So
Let's talk about that a little bit, with all these people saying, trust to science, wear a mask, trust to science, take the vaccine. Bro, science,
well, here,
they don't even know
let me
what
finish
science
that
is.
one
Yeah.
point,
All right,
and
let's
then
go back.
we'll definitely go into it. But I looked at the laptop, I pulled up the news, looked at it, and I'm telling you, in less than 15 seconds, I was like, nah, hell no.
False,
I'm not
fake.
talking about any
Yeah.
of this crap. No way.
No way.
Because what am I going to do? Just take some quick approach and rip it apart because my intellect is so sharp that I can do such a thing? Hell no.
And
man,
all those
that ain't
media
me.
companies are bought by big entities, and
Gross.
freaking Jeff Bezos owns like newspapers and
No
stuff,
thanks,
and they're all
cousin.
pushing agendas. It's all disgusting right now, and it's sad that a lot of people still are glued to the TV,
For sure.
you know, thinking they're going to tell them how to live their lives.
Well, and so you want to talk about science?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Go ahead.
So, science is bullshit, right? I'll just make it simple for anybody listening. Look, I'll prove it to you if you need me to, right? I'll go for it. So, you know, I mean, there's simple cases over time that have shown that studies are skewed, and there's, again, read that Bad Science book, man. Damn it. It'll break down a lot of this shit for you, because it'll make you understand that there's things years ago that we believed to be true. We held to be so true. Look at all these, remember the low fat phase? Right? Remember, everything was low fat this, and some of the shit's still around, but for a while, people genuinely thought a low fat diet was one that would keep you healthy. Hey, guess what, people? Do you know about testosterone? Well, testosterone comes from cholesterol. Fat, right? It comes from fat. Cholesterol forms DHEA, and voila, testosterone. All right, so you want to start depleting your testosterone. And this goes for females too, right? Like they have testosterone in their body, and it, unregulated causes real issues, man. It can really cause you to like fall into depression and shit like that. That's why I always preach lift heavy. Learn how to lift heavy first, but I mean, get warm and lift like an ape, because that's what's really going to like start that precursor to get testosterone flowing. So, all right. So the low fat craze, right? All that shit was bought out, like even the whole salt sugar thing. There's another good one. It's even been found that like some industry executives in the sugar industry, right? If you could believe it, paid like 60 G's for these scientists to come up with false claims about salt, that it caused high blood pressure, that it caused hypertension, that all these kind of things, right? Which, again, salt unregulated in the body, if you just go salt free, you will die, my friend. Keep that salt in your system, because your neurological pathways, right? Your brain and your nerves. Your brain can't send clear signals through your nerves without the proper electrolyte balance. So if you deplete sodium, your brain can't talk to your body, and your brain can't talk to your brain, to different areas of your brain, as well as if you had a proper electrolyte balance. So the end of the story is like, really, you could have a really healthy diet eating meat, making sure to get a little salt in, and some cruciferous vegetables, maybe some broccoli and, cauliflower or something, and drink water like it's your job. You'll be super healthy, and your brain will work a lot better. It'll optimize, it'll be so much better for you. Where's that information? Who's preaching this shit other than me? You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. Because misinformation is a real thing. Disinformation is another real thing. And, when it comes down to science, I mean, I could go off for the next hour. How much time you got? People, like on psychology and what, a silly, branch of science it is, and, I mean, everything, even biology. You want to act like biology. Oh, we know everything about the body. Yeah, no, we don't.
Right.
Like not even close. A lot of people made this shit up, and they made it up with, some good data and some good understanding. And maybe they're really genuinely trying to help, but also if anything they're saying is false and people are spewing it as fact, that's bad, man. That's how misinformation starts. And that's how people get all screwy in their heads and think, oh, I can't put too much salt on my food because I'll have high blood pressure. Like, no, you won't. Like, I mean, definitely don't
go hard.
Eat a pound of salt a day. I mean, yeah, that's probably going to have some bad effects on you, right? But it'll probably just give you the BGs, the bubble guts, more than it would do anything like terrible to your body. But again, don't believe me. Go look at the literature yourself. Go look at it. Look into any claim anybody makes about anything, right? And there's other guys who come in or other, scientists who come in and tear it apart.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of that with COVID, dude, where doctors will come out and they'll say some stuff about what works, like hydroxychloroquine was working, and a lot of
hydroxychloroquine. Yeah.
And thousands of doctors were saying it works.
They said doxycycline at first, right? Which is an anti-malarial drug that I took in Afghanistan that gave me the worst nightmares you could ever imagine. Right. So, take Doxy, have these terrible nightmares, and you'll be COVID free. Yeah. Like, dog, I'll get the COVID.
Yeah, let me get it.
Yeah, let me get it real quick, and then I'll get back to my A game.
Yeah, but they just keep they'll have a bunch of doctors come out and say different things, and then they'll erase it from the internet, and then they'll put their doctors up and their experts up of what works and what doesn't work.
And did you see? Pay attention to what you just said, because you said it the right way. Yeah, their doctors. They're experts that aren't getting any kickbacks, right?
Yeah.
That aren't getting any benefit for skewing the results in any way. They are the most ethical, honest people on earth, right?
Yep. Yeah. Fauci is definitely getting the same check as he always
what
been.
An ethical cat he is. You know, I guarantee he's doing everything in his best
interest for the people.
No. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
it's
he's been in government for 30 years.
But there are people out there that will argue that like he's doing the best job he can, and it's like, oh, because you know him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, because you understand the literature so well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't understand the literature, and you never met the guy. Sounds like a pretty dumbass thing to try and argue the point that this guy is some saint.
Yeah, dude, a lot of my listeners, I would say majority of them know this whole thing is nonsense, bro, which is so cool because then it's like, it gives me even more freedom to just be truthful, you know, and whatnot. Because like people that listen to the show, like they'll like private DM me stuff on Instagram of stuff that's related to just COVID just being nonsense or just mandatory vaccines and stuff like that, and or just stuff politically and stuff. They know that like because they listen to me, they're like, oh, I think me too. Like let me hit them up, you know. And it's just cool to just see that so many people respect truth. And that's one thing that I really one thing I really have noticed is that you might lose some people when you're speaking your truth initially, but in the long run, in the long game, like it'll be appreciated and more people will come to your show.
That's a good note. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's very clear. You know, it's I've seen it. I've seen the dip, and then I've seen the people coming back because people are actually sharing the show because it is truthful, you know?
Sure. And just to clear up the whole science is bullshit point, you know, just the fact that it's ever changing.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
The literature changes. The data changes. Oh, no. It's not that. It's this. Okay. The fact that it physically changes like that shows you that it wasn't true to begin with.
Absolutely. But we took it as truth because it's science.
It is truth because it's science.
Science.
Right. And my first degree is in exercise science, right? My first undergrad. So, like, you know, I'm definitely not, you know, a moron about the topic, but also, I mean, they're like, you know, exercise science, the study of the body and motion, kinesiology, right? So largely misunderstood. I mean, there are people who, holy shit, they have no idea how to train their body.
Yeah.
No idea.
You can see.
And those same people, when I tell them good advice, sometimes bark back with like what they heard somewhere or somebody told them. And it's like, did you ever try it? Did you ever put it into practice? Right? Like, you know, there's all these zealots, right? Keto zealots and vegans and all these people who are like, if you don't do my thing, you're wrong, you know? And it's like, you know, but how long have you done it for? How do you feel? If it works for you, dope. That's awesome. And, you know, and I hope that you're monitoring your results, right? And paying attention to yourself. Like, I think, you know, like I went for like I would say 7-year period where I weighed myself daily.
Wow.
Every single day. Same way every day. Upon waking, I'd pee, I'd weigh. That's it. Every single day.
Did that keep you in shape, you think?
Yeah, but it was more just for my understanding of what I'm doing and how it's working for me, right? So, you know, when you're lifting weights, trying to get stronger, you're going to get heavier, right? It's going to happen. You're giving your muscles the ability to retain more water and more creatine, and it, you know, they become, you know, larger muscle cells in the meantime. And you're going to gain weight because of it. And most of that is kind of water weight, right? I mean, I heard a really great strength coach a long time ago say that if you could put on 1 to 1.5 pounds of muscle a year, you're on the right track. You're doing the right, and that's quality muscle, the real thing, right? But there's you know, gurus, quote unquote, out there that will tell you they can pack on 10 pounds of muscle in a few months, right? And okay, are you talking about scale weight, or are you talking about legitimately like doing like water buoyancy tests and actually finding like the density of the muscle has increased, right? So, I mean, fat cells, you're born and you die with the same amount of fat cells, right? 100%. It's just how much do they grow, as to whether you can see them visibly. If you have visible abs, then you have very shrunken fat cells. It's a good thing, right? So, you know, that's anything less than 10% body fat for men. I think somewhere in the 17% for women. You're going to really start seeing, you know, some ab definition. So it's just shrinking fat cells. That's it. So like when people have lipo and they go in and actually remove legitimate fat cells, they remove tissue. Now you have less fat cells. And then here's the problem. You ever let your weight get out of control again, you are so screwed, because those fat cells are going to really ramp up. They're really going to start metabolizing fuel, or not metabolizing fuel, but they're going to start, holding on a lot more, right? They're not as like easily to flush fat through the liver and stuff like that, because they've grown to such a rate that it's out of control. So like, you ever want to get lipo, understand the repercussions. It might come back and bite you in the hide.
What is your thoughts on God and science? Do you think that I don't know how I'm trying to word this question, but what do you think God's hand is in science?
I think I know the question you're asking. Yeah. Exactly. What's God's hand in it? So, wow. I guess I could kind of do a two-pronged approach, but I'll just make it easy and go one. They have nothing to do with one another. Because science is man's understanding of man. It's us trying to understand how and why, not through the lens of God, right? Because if it was through the lens of God, then it would just be a philosophical talk, right? It would just be, if you drank more water, you'd be healthy. Okay. Right? But science intends on why would it make you more healthy, and would it really make you more healthy, and what kind of water? What's in the water? What water are you drinking? You drinking bad water, good water?
Yeah.
You in Flint? You know what I mean? You drinking that Flint water? It might not be good. I wouldn't hydrate if I lived in Flint, Michigan, but or I wouldn't do it through regular water. But yeah, they I don't know. God and science do not mirror each other. It's honestly you trying to seek the depths of your knowledge. And again, that's why it comes back wrong so often.
Right.
Because you're not bouncing it with the divine. You're not like seeking the divine. You're seeking, a lot of these scientists, again, Ben Goldacre, I can't push that book hard enough. It is so good because it shows just like how desperate people can be to get a published paper. Because if you're a scientist with a published peer-reviewed paper, oh man, you're in there.
Yeah.
If you're in journals and shit, bro, you're going to get better jobs. You could maybe get some cushy research job at some badass college lab, and bro, you're going to get paid. You're going to get tenure after a while. You can do whatever you want. You can study and research with, great materials and equipment and all kinds of awesome shit that's paid for by the college. You don't have to come out of pocket, right? So some mad scientist in his garage. This is somebody with a multi-million-dollar lab, right? So there is a benefit in just getting a paper out there, right? And yuck.
Gross,
yeah. Man, damn. And then you put some idea in people's heads, and again, ideas can be weaponized. People can really take your words as a truth
for a while,
for a long time, maybe I don't know, not forever, bullshit, because. Especially if you're, somebody seeking God's assistance in life, right? If you're seeking God's word, then you're going to eventually go, oh,
yeah. And I do hope that the younger generation is exposed to God. I think it's on us, dude, as not just parents, but just people that are kind of close, still 20s and 30s. We're still close to the youth age. We got to keep God in kind of the conversation. I feel like with the technology ramping up and with the distractions ramping up, a lot of the youth is just so distant from God right now. And so I have to maybe end with this question about you have Jordan's 11 now, right? So
almost.
He's almost 11. And what of the conversations you've had with him about God, and what is his understanding of God at 11? What would you say?
I think, and this is, again, stepping out on a limb, but I think his understanding of God is vastly better than most people's, because I'm not confusing him. I'm not, and parents out there, sorry to say it, but a lot of times you're confusing your kids with shit messages, right? Again, you're putting these generational curses on them. You're not good enough. You don't, you don't have the looks for that thing. Whatever it is that you're not, measuring up, right? So when you put that shit in their heads, then you're going to try to talk to them about God and the divine and how beautiful life and nature and love is. And how can you do that? Because you've already been proven not to be a truth talker to them, right? So I have always made an effort a very strong effort to never, ever, ever do that to him.
Yeah, you don't lie.
No. I don't lie. I don't bullshit. I mean, it was a joke on stage for a little bit that, like, I told him a long time ago. He's like, "Dad, is Santa real?" And I was like, "Nope. Daddy went to war for those gifts."
I remember that joke. I forgot you told that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told Noah that Santa wasn't real last year, and his mom wasn't happy with it, but it's okay. It all worked out for the better.
Right.
Yeah, I think truth
and at
is
the end of the
important.
day, I'm not going to speak for her, but why was she unhappy about it? Well, it's a form of control. You can say that, "Oh, Santa's not going to bring you any toys this year if you're bad. He's got a list and he checks it twice and all this bullshit."
I don't know if that was her intent, but that could be
right. That's what I'm
that
saying.
could
I'm
be
not
a
speaking for
that could
her,
be a
but I'm
parent's
just saying
intent,
it's a form of control.
Yeah.
Like, look at all these people with these wackos, and if you're doing that, what's that little elf on a shelf?
Yeah.
If you're doing that shit, stop, dude.
Cut it out. Yeah.
Stop, please. Understand what you're doing to your children. Fucking quit. Especially during this COVID shit, everybody with masks and shit. These kids are getting a distorted view of reality.
Absolutely.
I mean, big time, big time. So don't make it worse on them. Make it easier. Help them navigate through life. Tell them I don't know every now and again. Tell them I'll find out. Do research as an adult. Somebody with the capability of understanding higher level stuff. Do the research. Go back and say, "You know what? I looked it up and here's kind of what I found."
Yeah,
that was a
that's
good
great.
question. And, I'm going to give you the best answer I can. Right? Like I tell Jordan all the time, like, I am a dipshit. Listen to half of what I say and you'll probably be all right in life. You know what I mean? Like, because I do the best I can to give him tools.
Yeah.
Right? And eventually those tools can be weapons, and weapons are a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because if you got the proper tool, the proper weapon, let's go to war.
Yeah.
Right?
Put on that armor of God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want no smoke, and then that's what I'm talking about. So I try to empower him with that kind of stuff. Right. And try to let him like, right now I'm homeschooling him, and my intent behind homeschool is to teach him to love learning, because if you love learning, you're good.
That's absolutely correct.
You're good. It's going to take time, chill, right? You're going to need to learn to be patient, but over time, you'll figure out anything you put your mind to.
Absolutely. Especially being out here, where he's like going to grow up for these next 11 to 18, 7 years in the woods, seeing hunters, seeing hunting, seeing nature, seeing deer, seeing creeks, going fishing, going on a boat, having his family closer to him now, because that wasn't the case when you were in Texas, and just experiencing that, in itself, and doing projects, cutting wood, starting bonfires. The last 2 nights he started a little baby one, and he was like scared to put a leaf in, and then night 2 he's got this big huge bonfire next to our bonfire with rocks around it, looking like from the episode of Lost when they finally figured out how to make a fire. So it's just impressive to see like what homeschooling can be. It has a lot of potential to it.
Sure.
And you're definitely giving me an eye-opening experience of that.
See, and luckily, though, I am super blessed to have the ability to homeschool. I mean, I understand there's people out there that can't do that shit. They got to work,
you're
right?
home. Yeah.
They've kind of pigeonholed themselves into some career that most, they usually don't damn like, or, maybe they just kind of like being away from the house. I got buddies that are kind of like that. Like, I'd rather just get out of the house. And that's strange to me, right? Because this is home base.
Yeah, but you're also blessed where your family kind of lets you do your own thing. A lot of families aren't like that,
Yeah.
So
yeah, again, and that's where I don't try to get too preachy with people and try and tell them, "Oh, this is how I live. Do the same thing." Because
it's different for everybody.
No, don't do that shit. Don't be like me. Be better than me. That's what I've always told Jordan. If you don't end up better than me, then I failed.
Right.
You got to be better than me in some regard, some way. And it's not a competition. It's more of just a healthy challenge, right? Like, I'm giving you all the tools to succeed. Please use them for the right.
Yeah, and there's things he'll pull from you and things he won't. And I'm the same way when with you. Like, I kind of see you as like a big brother figure, and I definitely pay attention to what you do. But there's some stuff I choose to, like, I'm like, oh, I do want to do that, and some things I'm like, I'd probably still do what I do in regards to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely like you're definitely giving him the ammo. You're raising his awareness by him being out here too, with like just so much space,
right?
So much things to like look around. You're very present out here, and I feel like the presence of God is definitely out here, you know, and even just the people we've been meeting since I've been here for a few days, you know, with your neighbor Tom, he definitely seems like a guy that is well versed in a lot of different things. And we met his dad, and his dad was super cool and just a man's man, you know, and just knowing how to handle stuff on the farm, maple syrup farm we went to. And then we met the sheriff, and the sheriff just seems super cool with like his little vibe of like the way people live out here is just different. It's slowed down, and I feel like slowed down is how you get to feel the presence of God more.
I agree because again, it's about the clarity of that channel, you know, and are you distracting yourself with a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of stuff that, you know, you go like, I've always, or not always, but especially since I've been out of the Army, I've told all my friends, like, don't invite me to parties and shit, dog. I'm not coming. You're going to waste your time. And it's going to be an embarrassing moment where I have to go, nah, I will not be there. You know, like, oh, you're not even going to fake it. Like, I don't do that. Sorry. I'm not sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to distract myself with stuff that I know I don't like. I feel, you know, maybe it's some of my Army shit or something. I don't know. I don't want to try and dissect it way too much because it's a waste of time. But, you know, I don't like being in big crowded rooms. I don't, you know, unless I'm on stage. Hey, yo. Hey. You know, but I don't like being in, you know, crowded rooms with a bunch of drunk people talking about stupid shit. I mean, that's just, I would rather wake up early and read.
Right.
That means so much more to me than any party ever could. So, you know, just, it's nice to be uninterested in things that, you know, like fear of missing out, FOMO, right? Like, how ugly is that?
Yeah. I think
do
we all kind of struggle
if
with
you're
it.
doing you, you're never going to miss out on anything.
Right.
You
I
know?
like that.
Maybe you would have went to that party and maybe you would have wrecked and died drunkard and shit afterwards, leaving a tarnished name on your family and shit. And if people have gone through that, I'm not trying to make some grand statement. I'm just saying, I mean, maybe you'd be better off not going to that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe it's about self-preservation, right? Taking care of the self, because if you don't take care of the self, how are you ever going to figure out God? How are you going to ever figure out, you know, and navigate through life like true love, right? For others, that, like, if you want to talk about the meaning of life, I really do think it is finding an ability to love everyone no matter what. And if you can do that and you possess that ability, try and act like that ain't God. You wouldn't even be able to. You would understand it. You would know that, like, oh, I love everyone because that's what God wants me to do. He wants me to love everybody. You know, there was, you know, and I don't want to, you know, I don't even know if I should say that, or whatever. There was a homeless guy at the store the other day, and he asked me for, you know, some money or whatever. I was like, sorry, you know, I really don't have any. I didn't have cash on me. He was like, can I have a cigarette? And like, I've always made this thing when people ask for a cigarette, I give them 3, right? 1 for the mouth, 2 for the ears. Seriously. Right.
Awesome.
And I give them 3 and it always like
Lights them up.
whoa, wait a minute. Right. And the guy was like, you were in the military, huh? I was like, yeah, buddy, damn right. You know, and he was like, my man, you know, and I'm like, all right, brother, have a good day. And that quick little exchange, I thought about that shit for like 20 minutes after that. I was like, man, I hope I gave him something good. And look at this. Like, this is what some people consider a dreg of society. Somebody who's a scumbag. Somebody who, oh, gross, asking me for money or whatever, right? And like, I didn't do that shit, not even for a second. Not even for a second did I try to act like, oh, he's going to use my money for drugs or any shit. I don't give a shit. Use it for drugs. And if that's what you need to get by right now, I get it. Turn up. I'm cool with it, man. I mean, don't do drugs,
and
dog.
That's very Christ-like. Like the way Jesus was so, you know, in touch with the lepers. You know, the lepers were kind of like the people that were cast out of society in that time period and whatnot. And in our view of kind of like homelessness as well. And he always helped the sinners. He always helped the people, the prostitutes, the people that were like the worst of the society. You know, there's a great story in the book of Acts how one of the disciples named Philip preached to a eunuch. You know, eunuchs were like the group of people that were the most like, because they got castrated and they were like servants to people. So they like committed their life to their servant by getting castrated. So they were viewed in society as like, ugh. I know, dude. Eunuchs are interesting, dude. Look them up. I did some research on eunuchs. They're wow, dude. But also they had bread though, because like their master like hooked them up. You know, so they had like
a safe life.
Yeah, so
comfortable.
They had money, but
Wow.
They weren't using it.
It's not comfortable though. When
Yeah.
you sit down, you're like, where are my balls, dog?
Oh, this podcast definitely has more raunchiness to it. I'm gonna have to put this one, on Anchor when you can put explicit.
Hey, I've done actually
You've
pretty
done
well
well,
with not
yeah.
cursing.
You
You,
have
know what I
done
mean?
well, yeah.
Normally I start dropping them in there because I get all heated up, but I'm doing the best I can for you.
Yeah,
and
the
your
only
listeners.
F-bomb you let slip was on the elf in the shelf thing, so that's not bad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all
but
right,
that's
well,
passion. That's passion.
I mean, yeah, that's passion. Come on, please.
Yeah, but even so, that little thing that you did for that guy, it also ended up on a podcast that talks about God.
I know, and that's why I almost stopped myself from saying it because I don't like doing anything nice and then having to have this like, oh, look at me, I'm such a great person,
No,
it's
but
like such bullshit.
But it's not when it's coming from, you're a truth teller. So when it comes from somebody like you, it's like, we know your heart. We know that you're humble. You're not going to do, well, you're not humble, but you're. But you humble yourself enough to talk to the homeless guy, and you probably looked him in the eye. You didn't feel like you didn't treat him. Yeah, you didn't treat him badly because I know you. And I think that's
I shook
important.
his hand during the Rona times. You know what I mean? Shook his hand, had him a couple squares. We're good. But my point of it was like when I drove away, and I thought about it for a very long time, just like hoping that that. I don't know. Maybe it gave his day a boost, right? It was cold as shit outside.
It was
it's
so
like,
cold.
Maybe just a quick little boost in his day. Maybe it could change his life. You never know. Like, whoa, man, people don't treat me. Because I was just thinking, like, what do other people do in that situation?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm on the total flip side, like really hoping that, I don't know. And look, the exchange was very minimal. It's not like I asked him his understanding of God. You
want to light up?
Yeah, exactly. No, hell no. We were right next to a gas pump. But you know what I mean? He's parking up in a square here.
Yeah.
Come on, dog. But yeah, it's interesting to have that inverted view of what most people would have. And I think I formed that just through love and through the understanding of God.
Yeah. Let's leave it there.
There you go.
There we go. That's the show.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hey, let me plug your stuff real quick.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so we got
Shameless plug.
Jeff actually is one of the persons that really encouraged me to start a podcast. Right when he started his, he was like, "Come on, do it, bro!" Like really hyped me up, and we did a few episodes that you could check out actually on his podcast called Deweerd podcast. I've mentioned it a few times on this show throughout the episodes. So go check it out, subscribe to it. He's getting back into it. He just had his army buddy on recently, and they had a great conversation. So check that one out if you guys get some time. Deweerd podcast, and you got a book coming out shortly. I'll make sure I get that plugged up whenever it comes out. And you're gonna be a professor soon. You're gonna be a lawyer. You got a lot of things in the works.
I got stuff in the works.
You got stuff in the works, and I'm proud of you, man. And I love that you have this connection with God, and you feel openly good enough to talk about it on the I Like Bird show, man.
Yeah, bud.
All right, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no worries.
And if you enjoyed Jeff Deweerd, you can check out his podcast called Deweerdo, available on all platforms. And if you enjoyed this show of the I Like Birds podcast, please share it. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please do something to help other people hear the good news of Jesus. I appreciate you being here, as always. And if you'd like to reach out, you can hit me up on my Instagram at ZachRippey23. You can send me a little DM. I am on Facebook. I don't use it that often, but you can hit me up there if you'd like. Or you can email me at ZachRippey@yahoo.com. I also have a website where you can read some blog posts and some cool stuff at ZachRippey.com. And I'm running out of stuff to say, but thanks for tuning in. And I'm doing this weird voice because I feel like a lot of people don't listen to the hour and 22-minute mark. They probably just listen to about 45 minutes and then shut it off. But hey, look at you. You're still here. So I appreciate you. And put the show on your Instagram stories and let me know if you liked it. And hit up Jeff. You can follow him on Instagram at Airborne Comic. All right. We appreciate it. Be on the lookout for the next episode. It's going to be a heater. As always, much love to the birdhouse.